In the soft quiet of night, as you settle deeper into your bed and let the weight of the day slowly fade away, allow your breathing to slow and your thoughts to loosen. The world around you grows gentle, dim, and calm. In this peaceful moment, you are invited to drift into a distant realm, a realm shaped by myth, echoing with ancient songs and filled with tales older than memory. Tonight, we journey into the full lore of the Lord of the Rings, told slowly, soothingly, and carefully, guiding you toward deep and restorative sleep. Let the cadence of this story become soft background waves in your mind, flowing steadily like the rivers of Middle-earth. There is no need to focus sharply on each detail. Instead, allow the rhythms of this lore to wash gently over you. As your breath deepens, imagine a warm, quiet hearth somewhere in a peaceful corner of the Shire. Outside, the night is calm. Inside, a soft glow flickers, and a gentle voice retells the legends of ages long past. Middle-earth did not begin with hobbits, nor with the forging of the One Ring, nor even with the rise of the great kingdoms of men and elves. Its story stretches back far beyond the time of Frodo and Aragorn, and tonight, as you grow heavier with sleep, we will explore those vast ages, step by step, from the earliest creation to the final battles that shaped the world. So settle in, make yourself comfortable, and let the gentle tapestry of this ancient world ease your mind. As you breathe slowly and allow your body to sink deeper into rest, imagine the world before the world, a vast and silent expanse of nothingness. In that quiet void existed only the one, called Eru Ilúvatar, whose thoughts shaped all things. It is said that before the lands and seas of Middle-earth existed, before stars glimmered or mountains rose, Ilúvatar gathered the greatest of the Ainur, powerful spirits of his creation, and shared with them a theme of deep and wondrous music. This may feel like the soft beginning of a dream, drifting and unformed, and in many ways that is exactly what this moment was for the world itself. The Ainur listened, and then they began to sing, their harmonies, intertwined gently at first, building worlds of sound and meaning. Imagine slow, sweeping melodies drifting through an endless sky, calming, immense, and full of promise. This music, according to the ancient lore, became the shaping force behind everything that was to come. The world of Arda formed in the heart of their song, each note carrying the essence of valleys, forests, oceans, and the long ages that would unfold. And as the Ainur sang, Ilúvatar wove their themes together, guiding them with patience, even when some melodies grew turbulent. One spirit in particular, Melkor, sought to bend the music toward his own desires. His discordant notes rippled through the harmony like distant thunder, not violent, just lingering, unsettling, and persistent. Yet Ilúvatar responded not with anger, but with deeper, more profound melodies, absorbing each discord into something greater. The final harmony rose even more beautiful than before. If you feel yourself drifting slightly as you listen, let that be part of the journey. This story begins with music, and like music, it rises and falls in gentle waves. When the song ended, Ilúvatar revealed a vision of the world that their music had shaped. Oceans, glistening beneath early starlight, lands forming and shifting, and the first hints of life preparing to awaken. Many of the Ainur longed to enter this world, to become part of its unfolding tale. Among them were the Yuvala, the most powerful of the Ainur, who descended into Arda to shape it into the form they had sung. Picture them arriving in a world still soft and young, the ground warm beneath their feet, the air filled with the quiet promise of what was to come. They labored together, raising mountains, guiding rivers, and coaxing life from the earth. Their work was patient and gentle, like the slow, steady rise of dawn. As you rest, imagine these ancient beings moving through a world that is still being formed, a place where every footstep leaves a lasting mark and every breeze carries traces of the earliest melodies. Their presence filled Arda with peace and purpose, but Melkor, who had been the mightiest of the Ainur, also entered the world, and though he possessed great strength, his heart still carried discord. His desire was not to guide the world alongside the others, but to dominate it. He shaped vast regions of fire and shadow, unmaking what the other Valar built, twisting their work whenever he could. Despite this tension, the world grew. For long ages, the Valar shaped Arda, preparing it for the children of Ilúvatar, the elves and men, who had yet to awaken. The elves, destined to be the firstborn, were especially dear to the Valar, and their arrival approached slowly, like the first stars of evening. As you sink further into rest, allow this ancient timeline to drift softly through your imagination. Ages, passing like clouds, the world forming gently beneath the hands of timeless beings. The first stars kindled above Middle-earth, long before any mortal eye opened, and under that starlight, the elves awoke beside the quiet waters of Kivyenan. This moment, the awakening of the firstborn, is often described as serene and still, filled with wonder rather than fear. The elves rose beneath the shimmering sky, their senses sharp, their hearts filled with natural understanding of the world. When the Valar discovered the elves, they rejoiced, for at last the children of Ilúvatar had come. But Melkor discovered them as well, and his shadow took interest in them. Many stories hint that Melkor's malice touched some of the earliest elves, twisting them into creatures of darkness, a concept scholars debate. Within the lore, this could imply that such corruption became the beginning of the orcs, though not all. Versions of the tale agree fully. Still, the idea lingers as a quiet thread woven into earlier ages. To protect the elves from Melkor's influence, the Valar waged a great war against him, a conflict that shook the early world and reshaped mountains. And though the full story of this war belongs to later sections, here in this quiet introduction, it can be gently acknowledged. The world of Middle-earth was forged not only from music and wonder, but also from struggle. Yet for now, let your mind rest in the gentler parts of this tale, the starlit waters, the soft awakenings of the elves, the quiet shaping of Arda, and the distant echo of melodies that formed the very earth. Allow these images to settle warmly within you as we prepare to move deeper into the First Age, where the stories grow richer, the lands more defined, and the great histories of Middle-earth truly begin. Section 1 will continue toward 2,000 plus words in the next update. As the early ages unfold softly in your imagination, allow the pace of the story to slow even further, like distant waves rolling against a quiet shore. Each moment in these ancient times moves at a rhythm far different from the hurried world we know. a rhythm gentle enough for sleep, steady enough to guide your breathing as the tale deepens. Picture the Vala continuing their patient shaping of Arda, working together in harmony more often than conflict. Though Melkor's disruptions echoed across the land, the Vala responded with persistence, healing the earth again and again. This cycle of creation and disruption created contrasts across the world. Lands of warmth and light, balanced by regions touched by great cold or deep shadow. These contrasts would, later, define the landscapes through which future ages would walk. Among the Vala were those whose roles shaped the world in soothing ways. Vada, known as the Queen of the Stars, placed constellations in the dark sky, filling the heavens with patterns that the elves would one day cherish. Her stars were said to bring comfort, and in quiet nights such as this, imagining their slow shimmer can ease your thoughts into stillness. Yavanna, the giver of fruits, tended to all growing things. Under her guidance, forests rose, rich and green, vast enough that their canopies whispered softly in the early winds. Her presence in the lore is often described as gentle and nurturing, a reminder that much of Middle-earth's beauty grew from patience. Continuing seamlessly from the gentle shaping of Arda, under the hands of Vada and Yavanna, the world settles into a deeper calm. Though creation and disruption had formed contrasts across the early lands, warmth and shadow, gentle forests and distant cold, the harmony fostered by the Vala allowed Arda to breathe in a rare moment of stillness. As the stillness of those early ages settles into your imagination, the world of Arda continues to unfold with slow, dreamlike certainty. The elves, newly awakened and filled with gentle curiosity, wandered through the forests surrounding Quivienen. They tread lightly, marveling at the starlight reflected in the waters and the soft rustling of leaves overhead. In these calm, untouched moments of their earliest days, the world felt vast and welcoming, shaped by harmony even as distant shadows stirred. The peacefulness of their lives was matched only by their growing awareness of the land's deeper mysteries. The elves began naming everything they encountered: the small streams, the distant hills, the patterns of stars above them. Naming for the firstborn was not a hasty act. It was a quiet and intuitive process, guided by the natural feeling each place gave them. Their connection to the world around them was immediate and profound, as though the earth itself whispered its identity to them. Yet even in these gentle times, the faint presence of Melkor's earlier discord lingered in certain corners of Arda. While the Vala shaped the world with care, Melkor's desire for dominance manifested in abrupt shifts, regions of extreme cold or towering cliffs where the land buckled as though resisting his presence. These changes did not yet lead to open conflict in the way later ages would witness, but they created contrasts: serene plains beside darkened swaths of land, and forests that felt as though they were listening for something unseen. Despite these early disturbances, the Vala remained focused on preparing the world for the children of Iluvatar. Their presence was steady, guiding the shaping of Arda with patience and harmony. Among the Vala, Aule, the master smith, forged the very bones of the earth, its mountains, minerals, and deep places. His craftsmanship added a sense of structure and permanence to the world, giving it the solidity that the elves would one day walk upon. This early shaping held a sense of quiet wonder, almost like a lullaby woven into the land. Each valley and hill rose slowly over ages, mirroring the steady tempo of a calm breath in the night. As you rest, Imagine those lands emerging in gentle waves, timeless and unhurried. Meanwhile, Melkor's unrest grew subtly. Though he had once been the mightiest of the Ainur, his desire for control had led him down a path of isolation. Instead of joining in the shaping of Arda's beauty, he sought to claim the world for himself. His influence spread more quietly at first, small disruptions in the work of the Valar, regions of stark heat or shadow forming where his presence lingered. 1. The Valar, aware of these disturbances, continued their work with resilience rather than confrontation. Their focus remained on nurturing Arda into a place worthy of the lives that would soon awaken. In this way, the earliest shaping of the world carried not only creation, but a soft, enduring perseverance. At Cuivienen, the elves became aware of subtle dangers in the world, though these early hints were quiet and indistinct. Tales speak of some elves wandering too far from the safe waters and never returning. Later stories suggest that Melkor's servants may have taken them, shaping these early captives into creatures of darkness. Although the sources differ on how literal or symbolic these accounts may be, the idea appears throughout elvish memory and could imply that Melkor's influence took root earlier than many realized. This interpretation arises from fragments of ancient tales, suggesting that the Shadow watched the firstborn even before the Valar discovered them. Still, the early elves lived mostly in peace, unaware of the larger forces watching them. The Valar, upon learning of their awakening, sought to protect them. They moved against Melkor with greater resolve, leading into what would become the Battle of the Powers, though that story rightfully belongs in the First Age itself. For now, within this gentle introduction, the world remains in a twilight of early beginnings. Stars bright above untouched forests, the elves learning the first shapes of language, and the Valar watching with care. These moments in the early ages hold a tone perfect for sleep, ancient, slow, and steady. They remind us that even the greatest stories begin with quiet steps, with the calm before the shaping of destiny. As this section draws closer to its full length, let the peacefulness of these origins rest softly in your thoughts. Section 1 will continue and conclude in the next update. As Section 1 draws toward its final movements, the shaping of early Arda continues to unfold like a slow, ancient lullaby. The world is still young, still quiet, and still held in a balance between Melkor's distant unrest and the steady patience of the Valar. Yet within this calm, the rhythms of creation move gently forward. In the deep stretches of Middle-earth's earliest days, the lands themselves seem to exhale. Forests swayed with young winds, grasses shimmered beneath Varda's constellations, and rivers traced long, unhurried paths across plains that had not yet known battle or sorrow. These waters carried in them the earliest reflections of starlight, small flickers dancing across their surfaces as though greeting the night. The Valar looked upon these newly formed places with a serene sense of hope. Yavanna would often walk among the groves she had shaped, her presence inspiring the trees to deepen their roots and the young saplings to rise taller. Even in these early days, the forests seemed aware of her, leaning gently toward where she passed, as though seeking her blessing. Aula, the master of craft, continued his quiet shaping of the mountains. His work stood proud and tall, but in this age they were more graceful than fierce. Slopes curved with intention, peaks softened by his patient hands. He listened to the song of Arda itself as he worked, guiding the stone into harmony with the world's deeper rhythms. Tu Ulmo, dwelling in the depths of the waters, sent faint murmurs through the seas and rivers. These whispers were not warnings, but comfort, like the soft hush of waves that soothe the mind into sleep. He alone of the Vala wandered the world often, and even in these ancient times, those who listened closely could sense the calm sway of his presence in the sound of flowing water. Above all, Varda's stars glimmered brighter each night. She had chosen their places with great care, knowing that one day the elves, who were now awakening slowly in the distant east, would look upon them with wonder. In this moment, however, the stars served a simpler purpose. They kept the world from darkness too complete, offering a gentle glow that called for rest rather than fear. The newly awakened elves lived quietly under these skies, still learning to understand the world around them. Their early languages were soft and musical, whispers carried between the trees, shaped by curiosity rather than urgency. Nights were filled with their awe, days with exploration. They learned the patterns of leaves, the movement of animals, and the subtle changes in wind and water. Though Melkor's shadow existed far beyond their awareness, the Vala watched closely. The peace of these first days was delicate, precious. The Vala knew it would not last forever, but for now they allowed that peace to settle like a warm blanket across Arda. These quiet origins, stars shimmering softly, forests breathing steadily, waters humming their patient songs, complete the tone of Section 1, a world in balance, preparing for the greater stories yet to come. A world perfect for settling the mind, slowing the breath, and drifting gently into rest. Section 1 concludes here, a foundation laid in calm and starlight before the deeper history begins. Section 2, the First Age, origins of Middle-earth and the fall of Morgoth. Settle into a comfortable position, allowing your breathing to slow and your thoughts to drift. This portion of the story gently guides you into the earliest ages of Middle-earth, long before the world was shaped into the lands known in the tales of the Lord of the Rings. The First Age is vast and mythic, but here it will unfold softly, like a quiet retelling spoken beside a calm fire, meant not to excite, but to help your mind unwind. In these ancient times, the lands of Arda were still young. Mountains had only recently settled from their fiery birth. Seas still shimmered with the memory of their earliest storms, and forests stretched wide and untamed beneath starlit skies. The sun and moon had not yet risen, so nights were lit entirely by the stars Varda placed with care, constellations crafted to inspire awe and comfort. It is within this silver-blue world of starlight that the first great moments of Middle-earth truly begin. The awakening of the elves. By the quiet waters of Cuiviénen, the elves, called the children of Ilúvatar, awoke. Their eyes opened to a world of shimmering stars and gentle winds, and the first sounds they heard were the soft movements of water and the rustling of untouched forests. Legends describe the elves' earliest days as peaceful and full of wonder. They learned slowly and gracefully, shaping their earliest languages from the sounds of the natural world surrounding them. At this early stage, they knew nothing of danger. Their lives were quiet explorations of a land that seemed endless. But even in these first moments, subtle signs hinted that not all was safe. Some elves spoke of shadows at the forest edge, or strange shapes moving silently in the distance. Though the records are not specific, these early disturbances could imply Melkor's first attempts to interfere with the new race, dark echoes of his desire to twist creation to his own will. The Vala take notice. From their distant realm of Aman, the Valar had been watching the world, guiding its early formation while waiting for the children of Ilúvatar to appear. When the elves finally awoke, their arrival stirred great compassion among the Valar. These beings were not crafted by Valarin hands. they were truly independent lives, gifted directly by Ilúvatar. Many Valar believed the elves should be brought to the Blessed Realm for protection and guidance. Others hesitated, uncertain if removing the elves from their birthplace was the path intended for them. Still, one truth was clear. Melkor's growing influence threatened to corrupt or harm these new beings. And so, the Valar resolved to act. The Battle of the Powers. The Valar marched against Melkor in a conflict remembered as the Battle of the Powers. Though the lore describes it in grand, sweeping terms, the tone here remains gentle, as if hearing the story from a peaceful distance. Mountains were reshaped, lands trembled, and Melkor's strongholds were broken. In the end, Melkor was captured and bound with unbreakable chains. He was taken to Aemon and imprisoned for 3 ages, leaving Middle-earth quieter and safer than it had been since its forming. With the threat subdued, the Valar extended an invitation to the elves, a chance to come west and live in peace beneath the light of Aemon. The Great Journey. Many elves accepted the call and began what would later be known as the Great Journey. They travelled slowly across Middle-earth, guided by the mire and the steady glow of Varda's stars. Their path crossed wide plains, silent valleys, and forests whose leaves whispered softly in the still air. Along the way, some groups chose different paths. Certain elves turned aside out of fear or curiosity, drawn to the lands they discovered. Over time, these choices would create the many branches of elvenkind. Imagining this long migration, soft footsteps beneath starlight, gentle songs rising in the night, voices echoing through ancient woods, can bring a soothing rhythm to the mind. When the first of the elves finally reached Aman, their destiny changed forever. There, events would unfold that shaped the First Age and set the stage for both triumph and tragedy in the ages to come. More will follow as this section continues. The rise of the Noldor, the forging of the Silmarils, and the slow descent toward the rebellion that would eventually lead to the fall of Morgoth. Lotta, Section 3. Section 3. The Last Alliance and the Fall of Sauron, New Artifact. Settle in once more, allowing your breath to slow as we move gently into one of the most remembered turning points in Middle-earth's deep history. Though the events of this era are grand and full of conflict, this retelling keeps a quiet, sleep-focused tone, letting the story unfold like a slow-burning tapestry rather than a clash of noise. The end of the Second Age was shaped by Sauron's rise and the forging of the Rings of Power, but its conclusion was defined by the courage of elves and men who stood together for peace. The Last Alliance, though often remembered for its final battle at the foot of Mount Doom, began long before swords were drawn. It began with growing shadows and the steady gathering of purpose. Sauron's deception fades. After forging the Rings of Power and secretly creating the One Ring, Sauron revealed his true intentions. The elves, sensing his betrayal, hid their 3 rings from him. Enraged, Sauron sought to dominate all the free peoples of Middle-earth, beginning a long campaign of conquest. Across centuries, his influence spread like a slow-moving storm. Kingdoms in the east and south bent under his power, while in the west, both elves and men felt the weight of his growing might. Yet even in these rising tensions, we imagine the world in calm tones, the lands holding their breath, quiet forests standing as witnesses, and rivers reflecting the stars of Varda above. Gil-galad and Elendil unite. In response to Sauron's expansion, 2 great leaders formed a bond that would define the age. Ereinion Gil-galad, High King of the Noldor, ruled from Lindon. Wise and steady-hearted, he had long opposed Sauron's influence. Elendil the Tall, leader of the Númenórean exiles, had founded the realms of Arna and Gondor after escaping the downfall of Númenor, a catastrophe brought about, in part, by Sauron's manipulation. Elendil carried with him a quiet dignity, shaped by the loss of his homeland and the hope that his people might yet build something good in Middle-earth. Their alliance was forged not out of haste, but out of mutual understanding. Together, they gathered an army, unlike any seen since the earliest ages, elves of Lindon, men of Arnor and Gondor, and hosts from many other free peoples. The forming of this alliance can be imagined not as a moment of clamour, but of slow, purposeful preparation. Camps lit softly by firelight, banners rustling in gentle breezes, voices speaking in calm determination. The long siege of Barad-dûr. The last alliance marched east and met Sauron's forces in a long and difficult war. Though the details are described in grand strokes in the lore, this telling keeps the sense of distance, like observing a storm through a window, hearing only soft echoes of thunder. The siege of Barad-dûr lasted for years. Seasons changed, rivers swelled and receded, and the lands bore silent witness as elves and men held their ground. Despite the hardships, the alliance did not falter. What we focus on here is the endurance, the steady patience required to hold firm against long darkness. The final confrontation. When Sauron finally emerged from his fortress, the battle that followed marked the end of the Second Age. Gil-galad and Elendil faced him, and though they managed to overthrow the Dark Lord, both fell in the struggle. Elendil's son, Isildur, took up the hilt shard of his father's sword, Narsil, and cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand. With the ring separated from him, Sauron's physical form dissolved and his power diminished. In this quiet retelling, we let the moment settle softly, a great shadow fading, the air growing still, and the land taking its first calm breath after years of tension. Isildur, however, chose not to destroy the ring. Though this decision would have consequences far into the Third Age, we simply note here that the choice was made and history turned upon it. The Second Age ends. With Sauron's form undone and Barad-dûr laid low, the long struggle drew to a close. The last alliance began its return westward, carrying memories of loss and victory. And so, the Second Age passed into history, its great deeds remembered in both sorrow and quiet reverence. In the next section, we will move into the quieter centuries that follow, the long, hidden journey of the One Ring, the tragedy of Sméagol's transformation, and the soft unraveling of events that would eventually lead to the Fellowship's formation.